What's good? It's Woog. Naoya Inoue, the monster, scores a 6th-round TKO over Nery. This was an exciting fight, especially if you consider the beginning. Naoya Inoue got knocked down in the first round. And keep in mind, this location, the Tokyo Dome, is the same location that Buster Douglas, as like a 40-1 underdog, shocked the world, upsetting, knocking out Mike Tyson in February of 1990. So there is some huge upset history in the Tokyo Dome. And I've got to be honest, it was just a little bit shocking to see Inoue hit the canvas like that. It was a really nice punch, clean knockdown. They were kind of in close. And right before Inoue, who was about to just whip a left hook, right before he let that punch go, Nery, up close, in close, got a short left hand off, caught Inoue. And so as Inoue was about to throw and then throwing the left hook, his whole body kind of whipped around and he fell on his side, hit the canvas. Again, that was pretty wild. He got up, seemed like it was tough to tell because he seemed like he was pretty clear-headed, but then when you saw how he was fighting immediately after that, he was covering up, backing up, ducking punches, trying to buy some time. So it's like, okay, maybe Inoue's like hurt. But shortly after that, you could see that he was also catching Nery. Even before the end of the first round, caught Nery with a couple clean counters as Nery was kind of over pursuing Inoue. So the first round ends. Big round for Nery. There's a bunch of drama once again in the Tokyo Dome. And Inoue, kind of gave a couple acknowledging smiles as he was trying to get back into it after getting dropped. So second round, you see that Inoue's got the jab going and he's throwing that jab like a dart. Boom, boom. And then he's putting the right hands behind it. Nery is more or less sitting on the outside now, looking for big opportunities to wing hard counters, trying to catch Inoue with something big. But in between those attempts to catch Inoue with something big, he was getting peppered with some nice shots. Again, he's at range, and Inoue in this fight had a slight, like a half-inch height advantage, but a few inch reach advantage, which was going to inevitably make things very tough for Nery if the faster puncher, Inoue, also has the reach advantage. So one of the things that I was looking for here was how pronounced was the speed gap going to be? Once they're in the ring, can you noticeably tell who the faster puncher is? Well, it was tough to tell in the first round because of the reasons I just described, but in the second round, Inoue was looking very sharp. And so at one of the moments where Nery is trying to pursue Inoue, sometimes kind of head over skis, because in the first round, Nery was setting up his big shots behind a double jab. So closing the distance or closing the range with a boom, boom, while he's stepping into range to let something bigger go. He wasn't doing as much of that in the second round. So when he pursued without flashing that double jab in Inoue's face as he's closing the distance. So he comes in, Inoue lets a left hand go, catches Nery kind of over pursuing, drops Nery. And so now they've evened the score. Nery dropped Inoue in the first round. Inoue drops Nery in the second round. Third round and fourth round clearly go to Inoue. Again, this speed gap was super apparent by the third round. By this point, Inoue from the outside is just letting nice one punch, two punch go at a time. And a lot of these are landing very cleanly. It looks like Nery's on the outside, unable to do much about it. And by the fourth round, you had Inoue kind of showboating. You had him flashing hand speed, flashing a lot of facial expressions, smiles, kind of walking away with his hands and his head down, then just jumping in with a big punch or two. And also, one of the things about Inoue's flaws that they pointed out in recent fights is that when he throws a power punch with one hand, he often drops the other hand, which could give the opponent opportunities. And it did allow Nery, not only in the case of the knockdown, but in other cases to catch Inoue somewhat cleanly. But by the third and fourth round, it looked like Inoue was more or less in cruise control, able to let go of what he wanted to let go of without any major repercussion. So he's walking Nery down by like the fourth round. By the fifth round, drops Nery again. And this time it's like Nery was considering whether to continue. That's what I saw in the time that he took in getting up and how he looked when he got up and what his demeanor was like once he did get up. And then in the 6th round, he dropped Nery. Nery looked like he was this close to having his lights put out. He kind of bounced up against the ropes, limply fell down that 3rd time, and that was the fight. It's just remarkable how Inoue is able to let these fast power punches go without much of a windup. He's throwing them like regular shots. Like he's obviously getting legs and hips into it, but he's throwing it in a way where it looks super casual. It looks quick. It looks, again, very impactful and effective, but it's not like he's winding up and throwing something that looks like he's putting everything into it. He's just kind of within the construct of his stance, able to throw straight right hands that have this outsized effect. And yeah, again, he dropped Nery in the 2nd, the 5th, closed the show in the 6th. Another beautiful performance, even with the turbulent start. You know, after the fight, Inoue said he was very glad that he got knocked down. This was the first time in his career that he was knocked down, but he said that he was glad that he experienced that. And he also gave a lot of praise to Nery, because Nery, by the way, he had a lifetime ban from fighting in Japan. I don't know if it was from fighting in the whole country or certain cities within Japan. I'm not sure, but he was kind of exiled from fighting in Japan because he had tested positive for PEDs in the past. They had to waive that ban for this fight to take place. And Naoya Inoue acknowledged appreciation for his opponent, Luis Nery, after the fight. But yeah, this, aside from that 1st round and that knockdown, was another dominant performance for Naoya Inoue. And a lot of, people who were predicting the outcome of this fight were saying that, unlike Marlon Tapales, who was able to push this fight late, that Nery might get caught dropped early and stopped early or in the middle rounds. I thought that he was going to get stopped in the early to middle rounds, somewhere between 4 and 6. And that, in this case, ended up turning out to be the result. So yeah, Inoue, he's looking as dangerous as ever. Is he any more vulnerable today than he was at 28 years old? Because Inoue is 31, like Nery was a younger fighter between the two. Nery was 29, Inoue was 31. I can't say that there's been any drop off in Inoue's ability or in his defense. He's always had those, those tendencies to drop the other hand. It's just that you've got to find an opponent who could exploit that, get in the pocket, and make you pay for that. I mean, Inoue's been such a destructive force that obviously, Nonito Donaire had a fantastic first fight. It was the fight of the year for 2019. But in most cases, the opponents are so either spooked or overwhelmed by what Inoue's bringing to the table offensively, like Stephen Fulton, for instance, that they are not able to get anything going. Again, Nery had his moment in the 1st round, was looking to follow it up with something big, didn't have another, I'm not going to say he didn't have another opportunity, but he didn't successfully exploit any future opportunity before getting dropped 3 times and stopped. So yeah, Inoue looked great. They brought Sam Goodman, who, pretty recently upset Rais Aleem, and he's had another win since. Sam Goodman is one of these other fighters in the division, 122, who's been kind of buzzing. So he was in the ring basically saying, I've been your mandatory for a year, either drop the belts or fight me, basically. Inoue responded just by shaking his hand, and that was that. He said, we'll negotiate. I would love the opportunity to fight Sam Goodman, but we'll negotiate. And then they threw it to Sam Goodman, and that's when he said the thing about, I've been your mandatory for a year, fight me or drop the belts, to which Inoue just shook his hand, walked off, with his belts, and, that was, and took his pictures, and that was that. So yeah, I love setting the alarm early for these Inoue fights. I'm on the West Coast in the United States, Southern California. So by the time the main event starts, it's like around 5 a.m. But yeah, it's an exciting way to start off the day, obviously. And Naoya Inoue, the monster, did his thing as expected. Like, he was a huge favorite. I saw him as high as like a 10-1 favorite. At first, I thought it was a little high, but again, more I saw the fight playing out in my head, the more I could see it's going to be tough to picture Nery being able to take the heat for like the duration of the fight, or to even bring this into the late rounds. So yeah, Inoue closed the show within 6, and maybe he fights Sam Goodman next, but he's starting to clean house. He's now had 3 fights at 122. He stopped Stephen Fulton. He stopped Marlon Tapales. Now he stopped Luis Nery. I mean, we'll see how much more he does at 122. I don't know if he's going to end up going to 126. You would think so, but I mean, what would Inoue versus Brandon Figueroa, just throwing a name out there, a good name out there, what would that look like? What would Inoue versus Luis Alberto Lopez look like? I don't know, but and he's 31, so you've got to think that he's nearing that part of the trajectory where you start to taper off, but we'll see. He looked fantastic here. He is clearly still one of the, 2, 3, some will have him at 1, top 3 for sure, pound for pound best fighters in the sport. I mean, that's kind of a disservice to Usyk, but he's got to handle business against Tyson Fury, so we'll see about all that. But let me know your thoughts on this Inoue versus Luis Nery fight. And by the way, yeah, he's cleaning house at 122, and that's after becoming undisputed at 118. He is now he's been a 4-division champion, since earning a belt at 122. So 4-division champion, 2-time undisputed champion. Yeah, a pretty historic boxer. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.